So, building a more meaningful version of yourself means transcending, especially social media, where the eyes of other people are on you. Building a more meaningful community means building more meaningful families. And building more meaningful humanity means building a more meaningful Muslim community and Muslim ummah. Now, when it comes to charity as solidarity, there's something very interesting in the Quran that resonated with me a long time ago with a personal experience that I had. When I went to the Syrian refugee camps for the very first time, I remember finding such great connection with the people when I was on the ground with them and feeling like I was actually making an impact. And then as you drive out of the refugee camp, you see that the camp gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you realize that while you were in the moment and you were with those few tents, you missed out on all these other tents. And that can be a demoralizing situation in which you feel like you really didn't make the change that you sought. And how many people am I actually helping? And if I'm just passing out food, well, what am I doing about their winters? What am I doing about their education? And the verse in the Quran that stood out to me in this regard is where God says, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. They feed out of their love, or despite their love for what they have. They feed the one who is poor, they feed the orphan, and they feed the captive. Now I thought to myself, this is really interesting. Why feed the one who is an orphan and the one who is a captive? Isn't the greater goal to actually provide sponsorship to the orphan and to actually free the captive? And so I read the interpretation of this verse, the historical context of it, and that is that in Mecca, before Islam, people used to take their slaves and they used to send them out during the day so that they could beg for their food, and then they would put them back into captivity at night. So if you think about how cruel that is, that you're already enslaved to someone who has no sense of accountability, to anyone that is greater than them. And so all of the abuses and exploitation that take place in that institution. And then on top of that, they're not even responsible for feeding you. And so if you're walking the streets of Mecca, you have people that are enslaved and they're also begging for their food during the day. And what Allah is saying is that while the greater reward is in freeing them if you can, at least dignify them by feeding them so that they don't have to beg, so that they don't have a hard time taking care of themselves. And this is a great lesson for us, that when people are oppressed or people are in hardship, they feel solidarity through charity. That is a sign that you have not been forgotten. That is a sign that my greatest goal is to uplift you and to bring you out of your difficulty. And if I can't do it entirely, then I will do it partially. And when I do it partially, I will do it sincerely. And I will show you that I actually care about you. And so when you think about our devastated brothers and sisters, wherever they may be, whether we're talking about our Palestinian brothers and sisters or a group of people like the Rohingya that have almost been entirely forgotten, our charity means solidarity. On a local level, one of the beautiful things about Ramadan is that you can't neglect those that are around you. So the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said in Ramadan or outside that he is not a believer who goes to sleep full while his neighbor is hungry. During Ramadan, you're supposed to be checking on your neighbors. Your zakah, first and foremost, goes towards those that are in your localities. You can't neglect the poor people around you. And then you are able to connect to global communities in poverty with an intention to even do more for them. And even on the day of Eid, Eid al-Fitr, we pay Zakat al-Fitr. We pay an obligatory charity so that those who cannot afford a meal can celebrate as well, because we are not comfortable celebrating alone and then going back to our ignorance while other people continue to starve. So charity is empathy. Charity is solidarity.